Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, September 5th. This is episode 149. We're almost to the big.
Almost
150.
done.
Phew. Almost there.
Should we end? Right into Eclectic Gamers Podcast at gmail.com and let us know if we should finally end. You know, we've lost a lot of podcasts this year. Of course, that's true every year.
Yeah.
We lose
Podcasts kind of fall by the wayside.
They flare.
Often.
They burn bright like a star. And then they die like a star.
Yeah. Then there's some that are just glowing embers that just sit there and you can't really see them, but they burn hot and they're there forever. And if you grab it, it hurts.
And then there are us. We're like a red dwarf or something.
Yeah.
We'll just be lit forever. But we're really not that bright. We're not that bright.
We're just kind of there.
We're just kind of there. So what's been going on for the last couple of weeks, Tony?
I've spread my gaming out, so I'm not just playing Final Fantasy. I have played some ICBM, which is a very war gamesy little would you like to play a game type nuclear war simulator. I've played some of the 2018 version of Master of Orion, and I started watching a new person on YouTube, which has caused me to reinstall Civilization 6 with all of the expansions, not all of the expansions, because there's like a million, like, here's a new, country, here's a new country, here's a new country, but all of the major gameplay changing expansions, because I've not played with them before. I actually owned them. I got them from a Humble Bundle at one point, but I've not actually played with any of those expansions. So I've installed all of those because I'm going to give it a shot, because I've been watching the overanalyzed videos from Potato McWhiskey, and it's given me the itch to play some Civilization, so that'll vanish my soul for a while.
Yeah, you're not really there for the short-term games.
Not if you're playing Civ, you're not.
Well, that coupled with your MMO, and
right.
It's all very, very invested sort of products.
Most of the games I play are very invested sort of products. I'm not huge into the jump in and frag a couple noobs and jump out type gameplay.
Call of Duty Gravy Team 6.
Gravy Team 6? Yeah, no. So, but yeah, no, that's all that's been going on again. Other than I should be out working on my lawnmower.
Mm-hmm. But you're stuck in here with me.
I'm stuck in here, which is fine. I'd rather be in here. I know that my lawn needs to be mowed. It's getting to the point where if I can't get the mower fixed here real quick, I'm going to have to go rent a lawnmower from the rental place down the road.
That's the loudest bottle.
That was the loudest
I have ever heard. I don't know if the mic's picked up because you moved it like 20 feet away.
I did.
It was so loud.
I figured. Oh, I'll move it under the table and open my drink. It won't be that loud. And then it sounded like somebody knifed the tire of my car. Yeah. It's just air blowing out. It's like, well, so much for trying to be, so much for subtle.
Yeah. We're leaving it in. That's what people want. But what people don't want is watch talk. I had someone contact me saying, could you talk less about watches in your intro? And then I had someone else contact me and say, I really liked all that stuff you talked about the watches with. So I'm not going to talk about them this time.
So that just means you need to start a watch-centered thing. Like maybe a YouTube channel.
Yeah, maybe. One can dream. But related to this show, I played more Gears 5. I will finish this someday. I will. I swears it. I will.
I gotta get it done. Gears 32 comes out next week.
There are these open world sections, so I just keep going off and having to deal with the locusts left and right.
Shiny.
Yeah, ooh, shiny. Oh, Jack gets an upgrade. Jack should be like the most killer robot by now, given all the upgrades I've given him. But I played that yesterday, in fact. Other than that, just mostly work stuff. And then, holy cow, trying to keep track of all of this pinball stuff, because there was just
nothing happens in pinball. Nothing ever happens in pinball
for such a long time.
It's been months since anything happened in pinball.
And now, wave upon wave, it's like all of pinball is Blizzard. How's that for a tie-in?
There's a tie-in. There it is.
So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And I think I've got five categorical topics for pinball.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And not all of them are going to obviously need the same amount of attention, but let's start with a positive. Let's start with P3. That's the platform that Multimorphic produces.
Okay.
They announced a new game, Sorcerer's Apprentice. So, I have a link in the show notes for anyone who wants to read up on it, to an article that Pinball News has about the game. Just some real quick specifics. And in our internal notes, Tony, I've given you a screenshot of what the game looks like in Multiball. But it's using the Cosmic Cart playfield module.
Mm-hmm.
It uses, other than that, not uses, I should say, but rather what the player does in the game is, as you make specific shots, you collect spells. You can gather items. There are keys that you pick up throughout the game. And then using the buttons on the side, you can activate those sorts of things at particular times in the game. And the game itself is a downloadable game. It's $499 for the game. But as I noted, you need the Cosmic Cart Racing module, which that bundle is $2,499 if you don't already have it. And of course, you do need the P3 to be able to use the module,
right?
Which I think the normal price to get in on a P3 would be about $10,000, which you could probably get it with. I'm not going to look, it's complicated. Go to their website if you're interested in that platform. I'm not going to explain all the different options that you can do to buy because there are different deals at different times. And I don't want to get corrected. So.
All right. So I'm assuming this is the licensed game tie-in to the Fantasia short.
No.
Okay. So this is the licensed game tie-in to the Nick Cage movie.
No. You're not the first to suggest that, but no. This is not licensed at all. This is not. And in their teaser stuff on their Facebook and such, they did make it clear, at least I thought, they did make it clear this is an unlicensed game, but I do understand the confusion in the sense that they have been teasing their licensed game for longer than this.
I was going to say, because everything I've heard of them talking about is the licensed game.
Well, look, that's on the slow burn, apparently, because I was hearing about the licensed game before we even heard about Nick Baldridge's new game, which, as a third-party developer, I understand that he wasn't in the cycle of their promotions.
Right.
But this, I think, is I want to think I read this is the first that they've done one of these sort of internal developed for an existing module sort of things. So, it's something different. It's the idea of wanting to add more value to people for the modules that they have already got,
which is the whole purpose.
In part, I think it's a huge part of the concept, or what I would assume would have been the initial concept. Obviously, there's also there's a new game with a new module, and buying new modules is cheaper than buying a whole new pinball machine. There's that angle as well, but being able to do more and more with the existing modules and not having to swap them all out for every single game, obviously. There's a lot of advantages to that. So I could really see that going. I don't know if you had any thoughts. I caught a little bit of Buffalo Pinball's stream of this game. Very little, though.
And then there was tooltips look very Diablo. Diablo.
What do you think of I don't know if you got a good feel for the graphics. Some people have been very complimentary, that thinking these look like the best of the P3 graphics that they've seen so far.
I need to look at argument. I think I'd want to see them moving more from a closer.
My take was phone game,
which is pretty much the graphics of everything.
Yeah. But I'm not going to compare it to the other P3 stuff because I just don't remember well. I think you have a big challenge when you're using a screen, and if you want it to be dynamic, and just how much money it would cost to do Gears 5 level graphics.
Right.
That's what I'm wondering some people are wanting. And I'm like, think about what you see on the back of the LCD from a Stern game or a JJP game, and just how much is actually moving and stuff. Now imagine that you had a whole section of the playfield, and what are you wanting? You wanting a full video game? They're not going to sell as many. It's not like Call of Duty where you could get a few million in sales.
Right.
So there needs to be some realism here. But that's the general feel I get. Is it kind of reminds me of a Match 3 phone game style graphics effect.
Yeah.
It looks clean. It's easy to identify. I think that That's from what I've been able to see. Knowing what to do has been pretty clearly spelled out by the game. And that's something I think P3's often emphasized, is trying to make it very clear what you're supposed to do next. Of course, that comes down to the people doing the rules and such. But they take advantage of the screen in an educational fashion, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I think it's very what it is.
Yeah, obviously this is not gonna, because you're like dealing with a health bar and preserving. Again, it's one of those. Is it too atypical for the traditional pinball enthusiast to want that? Like when Cosmic Kart Racing came out, before they made a version where it was like a traditional game, it was that kart racing style thing, and it was it was cool, but it wasn't pinball. Does that make sense? Right.
Like, yes.
It didn't play like a traditional pinball game in terms of the rules. Right. Obviously, the physicality of it was pinball,
but yeah, no, because I had that exact feel when we first played Cosmic Kart Racing at TPF. But this is interesting, but it's not really pinball.
Yeah, that's where I think the excitement to Heist, besides the really cool crane toy, which the mechanics in P3 stuff has all been the cool stuff,
right?
But it was sort of, I think, to a lot of people, especially those that did not know about. I still have not played the traditional Cosmic Kart Racing rules. I've only played that heads-up style thing. It was that, hey, look, finally a quote-unquote traditional pinball game since Lexi. Like the first since Lexi. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know, because they have so many games. And most of them are, quite frankly, forgettable.
Yeah.
Because they're like mini games. So, I mean, it's just not.
Now, the question is will this $500 add-on for the Cosmic Kart Racing module make more people buy P3s?
Interesting question. My guess is no. That's where I think the licensed game will really come into effect. However, I do imagine most people who already own Cosmic Kart Racing's module will buy this game.
I would think so.
It might motivate some people who already have P3s to buy that module.
Yeah.
But I don't think it gets anyone to buy a $10,000 system.
No.
That's my guess. That's my guess.
I can see if somebody's been on the edge of getting the module, like they're thinking about it, but they haven't quite been sold, this might push them over.
Yes.
Even though it increases the cost by $500.
Right. But in the world of, and that's the thing, in the world of video games, this is a console. This is excessive.
Yes.
In the world of phone games, well, we're talking about graphic fidelity. In the world of phone games, phone games don't get to know if they're going to sell a lot or not. And they still have to be like $3.
Yeah.
But we're not in either of those worlds. We're in the world of pinball. And in the world of pinball, this is half a topper.
Basically.
Yeah. It's some of Stern's toppers. It's half a topper.
So for people who already own Cosmic Kart Racing, this is...
I would.
I found $500 in the seats in the cushions of the couch.
I mean, if I owned the Cosmic Kart Racing module, I would be hard pressed not to buy this just so it had more functionality.
Yes,
especially if I knew I was going to keep the system.
Right,
because obviously you can't. It's not like a traditional pinball machine. I can't take my Sorcerer's Apprentice game if I ended up not liking it and selling it to another P3 owner.
Yeah.
So, because that's the part of the DLC stuff. So anyway, I look forward to trying it. I'm more excited. I mean, my overall thought is this looks neat. I'm more interested still to try Heist, but I want to try both. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
now I have a story about this. It's a sad story. Sad for me, not sad for P3. So, I was actually, I think I was. It was the night Buffalo was revealing or doing their gameplay reveal, and someone messaged me and asked me if I voiced the Sorcerer in this game, which I do not. I've never voiced any pinball machine. So I said, no, I'm not the voice of the Sorcerer. I went into the stream later that night, and I heard the voice of the Sorcerer, which it's modulated, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say, imagine my voice, but distorted really low. But I don't know if that's right or not. Later, that same person said, I had to turn off the stream. I cannot stand the Sorcerer and the voice of the Sorcerer. So, is that not an indirect attack on me? It sounds like it is. It sounds like someone doesn't like my voice.
Maybe they like your voice.
No.
But the modulation makes it irritating to them, so they can't handle the modulated Dennis voice.
I'm like, I think that I think that they don't like my voice very much. And they just decided to tell me that in this indirect way, since it wasn't really. I actually think it's another podcaster who did end up, I think I heard, is the voice of it. But, oh well, I don't know. It's only so much for my feelings, Tony.
Yeah.
I guess that's the moral. That's the moral.
This is what happens when you don't have smooth, velvety
Look, we
tones.
aren't all Jeff Teolis or Jeff Parsons or the other Jeffs with their smooth, velvety tones.
We
Some of
have
us
to make
nasally
do with
voices.
what we have.
We do. I wasn't even in the game. Moving on. Topic number 2. Homepin. We have not talked about Homepin in a long time, Tony.
Who's Homepin?
Homepin is a pinball manufacturer that often describes itself as an Australian pinball company. It was based out of mainland China when they released their first pinball machine, Thunderbirds Are Go pinball.
Man, isn't that the one that had that they used like 2-liter bottles to make the ramps?
They had a very thin plastic ramp at one point, but those ramps were replaced with metal ramps based off of consumer feedback. Consumer feedback did not change how many times you have to shoot said ramp to spell international rescue, but that ramp was improved. It was improved in post. We'll fix it in post. So now Homepin is building in Taiwan, and they have announced this is Spinal Tap Pinball. I haven't seen any images of the game, nothing about the gameplay. I do have a link in the show notes to the relevant Pinside thread discussing this. I believe this is a Balser design, and that's based off of that Homepin had been talking about how Balser was working on their next game. I have read that Balser has already come and gone from Homepin. So how much of the game might be his remains to be seen or known. Pinball News and Pinball Magazine podcast, in their most recent episode, did have an interview with Mike, who owns Homepin. We talked a bit about the game. I'm not quite sure yet exactly what they're doing in terms of like an electronics set. He still emphasized a lot of the stuff that was kind of his philosophy for Thunderbirds, which was that this is going to be basically code complete when it's released. I believe he described it as 99% code complete. He doesn't believe in putting out code updates after games are out, that they should go out finished. And also, if you are into these modern, deep rule set games, this is not the game for you. This is going to be more along the lines of a 90s style rule set, which was his philosophy for Thunderbirds as well. So, and probably will be his philosophy for all games. Judging from him.
Which is fine.
He can do what he wants. The market will decide.
The market will decide.
What are your thoughts on Spinal Tap as a pinball theme, Tony? And I was going to say, and Homepin doing it, but let's start with
Spinal Tap as a pinball thing.
Yeah. Now I have to say, I can't really comment much on this. My dad showed me Spinal Tap one time. I don't remember how old I was, and I can't really remember a movie. So all I know is I have seen it. And it didn't really click with me at the time, but so I am completely indifferent. I know people love it. Obviously, we have played the Flash Gordon that's been rethemed as a Spinal Tap game at shows. So there's clearly people who love this theme. What do you think of the theme, though?
I don't care.
Oh, okay.
I full on don't care.
Have you seen the movie?
I have.
Okay.
But for me, it's not the kind of touchstone for me that it is for certain people. It's just like the people clamoring over, Goonies or Harry Potter or all these other things that they want. Goonies is a pretty solid touchstone for me. I loved the movie as a kid, but I still don't care enough that it's not something I'm clamoring for.
Well, Goonies was our generation, though. I think Spinal Tap sort of predates us.
It does. So, but yeah, no, it's not. I know there's going to be people out there who are all about it just because of that touchstone, and it's full on pinball's current trend of nostalgia, all the things. Mm-hmm. So that'll help probably more than Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds was, I know, and Mike emphasized this when he was promoting it, was he knew that wasn't great for American audiences, but he kept insisting in Australia and in Europe, Thunderbirds was a huge touchstone, and he wasn't trying to win over Americans. Obviously, he has a great deal more potential to win over Americans with Spinal Tap.
Right. But I'm going to have quality control issues.
And that's what I wanted to touch on next, the Homepin aspect. So, it's not just the theme. We agree that the theme is better overall than Thunderbirds.
Yes.
Homepin. Thunderbirds as a game, last I looked, might be the lowest rated game on Pinside. It is despised, acknowledged as a functional game, but despised as a playing game. Despised. So, do you think that people who might otherwise be in on Spinal Tap are either going to be slow to adopt it or outright refuse to get it because Homepin's behind it?
Oh God, no. No, I don't think so. I used to think stuff like that, but after the whole Deep Root debacle and Zidware and Skip B and everything, nah. I think people will go all over something if it tackles the right button for them. I mean, it could be a guy offering candy in the back of his van. If it's the right offer, pinball people are going to go in there. There could be a guy sitting there with a bloody dagger in his hand going, I got me a Goonies in the back of the van. And they're going, ooh, here's my money. I want to play Goonies. What are all these bodies? I mean, no. I have no respect or expectation for people not to get hurt.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is, they do have a track record of producing the game.
They do.
Games, so it's not they're not the fly-by-night that the startups are all inherently kind of in.
No, they're not.
I think I have to agree broadly. Yeah, there probably are a few people who are more indifferent about the theme that might have been willing, that won't because it's Homepin, but I think the people that are Spinal Tap fans are going to end up buying it.
I think so.
And
like it or hate it.
Yeah.
And there's some people who will buy it and they will keep it, even if it's just a giant stinky turd.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a Spinal Tap
I know
game.
people that don't love how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles plays, but they're such turtle fanatics that they're going to keep that game.
And that's awesome for them.
Yeah. No, that's fine. The one thing is when Thunderbirds was cheap, it was less expensive than a Stern Pro to get into the US, I believe by a few hundred. I don't know if they'll be able to pull that off this go. Now, I've received a report from someone who heard from a higher up at Stern that the new Stern game, which is expected to be announced on Wednesday, will be $600 more for a Pro. I did not hear from my source, but I've heard from others that the premium and LEs are going up $1,000. Homepin could be typically, I would have thought, in a very good position to offer a low-cost option, which, even if it is an inferior experience, people might be willing to embrace. However, in that Pinball News, Pinball Magazine podcast interview, Mike did note the shipping container costs now are massive.
They are.
And obviously, he being overseas from the U.S. means there would be significant cost. I think he was talking like container costs are tenfold what they used to be. So if that's indeed true, whatever savings might have been available may be eaten up by the boats. So,
we'll see. I mean, I hope that it works out for them. I hope the quality is better and it's more enjoyable than Thunderbirds.
Now, the thing is, if Balser really did design it, an experienced designer like him should be able to execute. We never found out who designed Thunderbirds. Mike was coy about it. He was always like it was a secret. It sounded like maybe it was a lot of these things are collaborative, but there's usually one lead. And he never named who it was. And after it came out, whoever it was probably didn't want to be named.
I heard you made Thunderbirds. Nope. I ain't never made a pinball machine before in my life. Don't know what you're talking about.
So, we will have to wait and see. Item number 3 in the pinball section. This Week in Pinball. It has, Jeff, who runs This Week in Pinball, has announced a hiatus. I have a link in the show notes to the actual announcement of said hiatus. I'm not going to read it because it's fairly lengthy, but it is something, obviously, that's newsworthy and deserves to be talked about. I have not reached out to Jeff for comment on any of this because my assumption is What he wanted public, he put in this article.
I mean, that makes sense.
So, he said what he said. There were a number of noteworthy claims in the announcement. So I want to touch on a few pieces of it, and then we can go through this because you and I have discussed this a little bit off air. So in the announcement is the discussion of the monetization of TWIP. It's referenced several times, actually, monetization. Jeff described a phone call with Robert of Deeproot Pinball that occurred in late 2020 and references what he thought at the time was an FCC investigation. There are references to a phone call with 2 other unnamed individuals about cutting ties with Deeproot. He notes getting anonymous cryptic messages that, quote, borderline on blackmail, end quote, threatening to destroy TWIP with information that they possessed. And that Jeff's assumption is that it relates to that phone call, though. I'll touch on my questions later. And then it notes that TWIP will go on hiatus, but also denotes that that's not just because of the Deeproot issue that most of this article was going over.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to guess that when Jeff wrote this, he was probably upset because, quite frankly, this is all over the place. I had a really hard time interpreting what Speen said.
It was definitely...
the hiatus is clear. The hiatus, that part's clear. However, like the storytelling, like the narrative thread of this, it's sort of chronological, but it's like it's jumping all over. And I read it 3 times and I'm not quite sure what he's saying. I'm not sure what it's, and I didn't want to bug him and say, Jeff, what are you saying? I didn't want to make him defensive about it. But, so like, for example, one of the things that I noted in my summary is that he mentioned this phone call with a friend and a third person, and cutting ties with Deeproot, but he doesn't say what the ties are. I'm guessing sponsorship ties because he spends all these other parts talking about monetization, but never really says exactly what the arrangement was with Deeproot. So I'm assuming they were a sponsor. Now, based off of this, separate from this, I had heard repeatedly that there was a sponsorship at one point with Deeproot Pinball.
But was there there was never anything explicitly stated. And
this is something, and I went back because I remember, oh gosh, it was like episode 120 something. You did a big thing on, excuse me, I hit my can, on FTC.
Yeah.
Federal Trade Commission. And there are requirements that exist for U.S. based entities if they're promoting products, essentially,
right.
is the idea. And I'll include a link in the show notes to your what you linked a social media guide at the time,
right?
And yeah, that was one of the things that got me thinking back about that piece that you did on it. Because as you mentioned, we were talking a little bit indirectly at the start about my watch YouTube. If I were to get a free watch, for example, and do a review of it, I need to declare that I got the product for free. That's
right.
a requirement because that's essentially a paid promotion. But in that social media guide from the FTC, it specifies like if you get even if it's not to promote a specific product, the importance of specifying that a relationship like that exists when you cover the topic so that people can judge for themselves whether or not you're really being neutral, even if you mean to be neutral.
Right.
But I'm not sure that that's what, I'd heard about that stuff like years ago. So this, I don't think, I think this FCC thing that has been brought up by Jeff in his piece is about mishearing the SEC thing that Robert was going on about. So let's talk about the blackmail.
Okay.
All right. Now, first of all, I don't know what borderline on blackmail means. So that's almost blackmail. That's like almost pregnant though. Someone's either blackmailing you or they're not blackmailing you. I don't know what borderline on blackmail means. Blackmail is normally asking for money or some other consideration in exchange for not going public with your criminal or embarrassing action.
Right.
So if someone knows that you did something wrong and they tell you they're going to go forward, that isn't almost blackmail. That's giving you a heads up that they're about to expose you.
Right. Which would be, it's just...
Now, if they're doing it to harass you, that's harassment, but that's not blackmail.
Yeah, because did they ask for anything?
And if they ask for anything, it's not almost blackmail. It is blackmail. And then you should report it. You should report it. So I don't know. And again, there are no screenshots of any of this, so I don't know. Like,
could I mean maybe consider since they were threatening to destroy TWIP, that was the blackmail because it's something he's done, it's something he's created. So the threat of its destruction could be.
Yeah, see,
but to me, that would just make it blackmail, not borderline blackmail. That's literally just. But
it would only be if they asked for something to keep it quiet. Keep it quiet.
Right. But why would they be saying I've got stuff otherwise? Otherwise, yeah.
Well, it could be, and again, if someone wanted just to be mean and harass him, but that's harassment. You see, blackmail it gives a connotation of something nefarious in the sense that someone was trying to get paid out of it.
Right.
But he didn't say blackmail. He said this borderline. So he wasn't calling it blackmail either. And again, without like screenshots to see any of the messages or anything, I don't know. I don't know exactly.
It could just be a wording thing.
Sure. But again, I was like, because when I saw that, I thought, what are they asking for? Of course, at first, because I focused on blackmail. I didn't focus on the borderline part. And then when I went back, I'm like, oh, wait, he's hedged the language a bit. So, because obviously harassment, it's not appropriate. It's not. Now, if someone has something,
well, blackmail's not appropriate either.
Exactly. I'm just trying to say that I'm not trying to de-emphasize that someone should not be anonymously bothering Jeff by making threats.
Right.
But if someone has information of something that they thought was wrong, there's nothing that like whistleblower style going forward. That's not a problem to do.
Right.
And again, normally, it seemed like in this very roundabout way in this hiatus announcement, Jeff was covering all of the topics like if he's putting everything out there, there's nothing to be harassed or blackmailed over. See,
right.
The whole goal with a blackmail is you've got something that someone needs to keep secret. So what would be the secret? I'm not like, based off of this, it's to me one of two things. One would be that there was a sponsorship arrangement between TWIP and Deeproot, which that should have always been known if it existed.
It should have.
And that's where, when he talks about the other, not the Robert phone call, but the phone call with the other two people, Jeff mentions something about telling them that he cut ties with Deeproot. The only thing that makes sense to me is sponsorship ties, because what else is that? Does cut ties means you're not going to report on them anymore? Because if you're positioned yourself as a neutral arbiter and disseminator of pinball news, you couldn't do like that. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to no longer cover a company because you don't like what they're doing. And if it was a sponsorship, okay, that's fine, cutting ties, but again, I went back and looked at some of the prior, because I don't know what the time frames were. I went back and looked at some of the prior Deeproot articles on TWIP this last week. I didn't see disclaimers denoting that there was sponsorship at the top of those articles. And again, per FTC, you are supposed to be very upfront. You can't just put it on a homepage or whatever and say.
You need to make it very clear.
But again, I don't think that's it, because social media, not completely. I know it really bothers you because you were pretty steamed when you covered the FTC stuff. That said, social media people, from blogs to YouTube to all that, they violate the FTC requirement on that a lot. And so most of the time, it's just if anyone reports to you, I think they go in and they just correct and they say, "Hey, you're not doing it right. This is your warning. Get your act together. You need to. Here's a guide. It's a 4-page guide. It's not hard." And just start doing this sort of stuff. So I don't think that's it. I think what they were threatening was this stuff, this FC, because he spent so much time talking about how he wrote down FCC and, we're going to assume SEC. Is he saying that Robert told him months ago, like last year, that he was under SEC investigation? Because I could see where it could be interpreted by this anonymous harasser / quasi blackmailer that it would be embarrassing to say TWIP knew about this months ago and didn't report on it.
Yeah.
Because then if you know that there's a financial consideration, a sponsorship that exists, people might naturally assume you sat on it to protect your paycheck.
And that's exactly what it would look like.
So
even if you cut ties immediately, the whole not reporting it thing for a place that it's talking about being, the home of the news, that's huge news with that much of how it tied into the actual day-to-day operations of Deeproot and what it turns out to be from what we've seen now. I mean, it's another level completely of like covering, and even if it was just, I just don't understand. I thought he said FCC. That doesn't make sense. I'll just ignore it. It's like, why would you ignore something like that? He's talking about an investigation by a governmental group into,
Well, and I mean, there are a lot of legitimate reasons that one might decide not to that aren't related to the sponsorship. But it would look
real
to people,
bad.
It would look like the sponsorship. But for example, if the company in question has a reputation for being litigious, and you're worried that there would be a lawsuit, that could create a lot of pressure unrelated to financial consideration. That would be like, I can't go on a rumor. On the flip side, if you hear it from the head of the company, it's probably,
I would say that's not really a rumor.
Right. And, obviously there's things like allegedly and stuff, but it's just, I could, that's why that's what it seems like to me. And that's why I think that Jeff wrote about this explanation of this call with Robert was, in a way, I mean, putting that out there is a good way to defang the harasser / blackmailer. Right. Because if you've got it out, I mean, there's nothing to expose if you've put it all out there. But the way it was phrased was just not as clear cut to me as I would have. I'm like, I still don't understand.
See, that's the thing with the cut ties and how deeply involved in like the Deep Six thing that TWIP was, and then the cut ties thing. It to me just screams that basically that there was a sponsorship. And that it was not disclosed, which is something that has been rumored. And to me, that means that anything they ever said on this thing is trash. It doesn't mean anything. It's used toilet paper. I mean, because it can't be trusted for anything.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I know a number of companies, for example, have supplied products for the giveaways to the consumers or the people donating and stuff, which, declaring that on that page that's not stuff that's kept by the entity. Right. That sort of stuff's one thing. Sponsor, and that's not that it's wrong to, well, you have to make the decision about, news media has to deal with this all the time, the decision to take sponsorships from it. But this is why you see things like when ABC's covering, it'll be like, oh, by the way, Disney literally owns us. Right. Whenever they report on Disney, they just have to put a throwaway line in there to make it clear so of the relationship, even if it's meant to still be neutral. And you don't have to say like what the deal was. Like, we don't have a right to know. Jeff doesn't have to tell us how much sponsors give him every month. But
we have a right to know that there is something in place.
It's just the same thing when we made the arrangement, with Roanoke Pinball Museum, when they gave you that pinball machine. Yeah. And so we agreed, okay, well, that was the equivalent of a year's worth of sponsorship. And we have the announcement at the start of every episode. Not only was that for people to enjoy stupid, goofy voices, that was also to satisfy an FTC requirement. That's why it was done that way. And now the sponsorship doesn't exist anymore. We don't have to keep doing that because there is a limit to where you have to how long you have to do these things. But that's a good point. A couple other items that sort of that came up with this. There was a part in here where the borderline blackmail paragraph is that Jeff wrote, quote, "The only thing I can think of is that it is linked to that phone call," end quote. I couldn't tell if this was linked to the Robert phone call or linked to the phone call with the friend and the other person who he doesn't name, so we can't ask them about what that, because I assumed the former, that it's about the call with Robert, because that's the one where he talks about the FCC stuff, and the other one sounded like it was just a call where he told a couple people he was cutting ties with Deeproot. Right. But again, no names are listed, so you can't follow up with anyone to, if you wanted to try. I mean, I don't know if we want to sort it out more or not. Maybe it doesn't matter. One of the interesting things I think to denote with stuff like this is how it talking about the considerations and stuff and how far does the tendril or the tentacle go with this sort of thing. So just so people that maybe are engaged in other content creation, it only goes out basically that one level, the relationship between the creator and the sponsor. And I say that because, for example, I wrote some articles for TWIP back in the day. And while I did not do those to get paid by TWIP, 2 times I did get issued payments from Jeff from This Week in Pinball, that he just sent me saying, the articles, they had a lot of views. He appreciated me doing them. And while I didn't have to on the show, I did announce that each of those were $100. And that was my declaration, because we, just like we are right now covering TWIP, given the immediacy of that, I thought it was important for FTC reasons, and just, to keep it honest with people to know that, hey, I got money from This Week in Pinball. We cover This Week in Pinball. We talk about them.
Yes.
So it's important at the time that happened that people knew that I had received consideration from This Week in Pinball. Now, here's an interesting what if. Was back then Deep Root paying This Week in Pinball? Did I get Deep Root money? Maybe, but it's moot.
Because,
the deal with the sponsors was with This Week in Pinball, not with me.
Correct.
It does not matter. It reminds me
you wouldn't have known where the money was coming from.
Well, even if I did, I'm not obligated to treat them like my sponsor, because that's out of my control.
Right.
Their arrangement isn't with me. Whatever this is doesn't really go further than This Week in Pinball. So the reason I bring this up is, this came up in discussion with, there's the promoters database thing where I think TWIP's been sending payments. We decided we declined. We didn't want to, because that creates a sponsorship arrangement, and we didn't want to do that. But a lot of content creators have been getting money from This Week in Pinball. You guys, if you're listening, no, you do not have to worry about, 10% of my money is Deep Root and 10% Stern and 10%, I don't know what the arrangements are. You have one sponsor. It's This Week in Pinball.
Yeah.
None of y'all have to worry about that.
Yeah. All you need to do is make sure people know.
Only TWIP has to worry about that. You have to worry about, and if you aren't, don't make Tony mad and do another FTC episode. You should be declaring that you are getting paid, that people have a right to know. You don't have to say how much, but if you're getting money, even if it's not to endorse a specific product, it creates the perception of conflict.
Right. And again, you only need, it's not like you need to make it clear if you're talking about washing your car over the weekend.
No.
But when you're talking about anything related to TWIP, or you mentioned that, hey, we got this information from TWIP, you need to make sure that it's known that there is a relationship there.
Yeah. And you should always do it when if you're covering that portion, it's good to say it at the start of that segment. When people are live streaming, it's encouraged that on occasion they mention the sponsorship if they're talking about the spot, if they're talking about the entity that sponsors them, or about the particular product if it was a product.
And it's preferred to have it as a vocal mention, not just something that you occasionally pops on the screen when you hit the button.
Yes. Yeah. We'll have it in the show notes. There's a whole guide. It's just, it's easy to trip up, but it's real easy to comply with.
Yeah.
It is. It's really easy to comply with. So,
it's one of those things, it's kind of like...
I feel like we've turned this into this educational FTC thing, but there's so much money that was flowing, not just this, what we're, touching on with this possible relationship between Deep Root and TWIP, but rather, the whole promotion database, TWIP as a sponsor to so many entities. And I'm not sure they're all playing by the proper rules. And they could get, I don't think you'll get in super duper bad trouble, but you can get in trouble for it. So you
can. And it's something, it's just...
Fix it going forward.
Yeah, just fix it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you ever listen to the radio, they always, say what station they are, and they give their little numbers, whatever KCURK or whatever they are. And that's an FCC requirement. They have to do that every so often. They have to put out their number and their
station
identification. It's the same thing, like if you're a ham radio operator, you can be on a ham radio and you can talk for 30 hours, but you still have to identify every so often during your thing. And so a lot of operators will have a thing that will tone over them and give their identifier in Morse while they're talking about stuff, because
they don't want to forget.
Right.
Yeah.
I've not dealt with ham radio since my license expired like 10 years ago, but it was a thing at one point in time.
Mm-hmm. I guess the last thing on this section, back more on topic. So the hiatus itself, how long do you think Jeff goes on hiatus?
I don't think it comes back.
I agree. I think he's done.
I think it's done. I think this is all this stuff, everything that's come up, and depending upon what this background pseudo blackmail, yada yada yada, I don't think it comes back.
I don't think it comes back, but I don't think because of that. I think if he wanted to come back, like whatever this is, and it would blow over
eventually. Yeah,
eventually. In fact, most of the online stuff hasn't been hard. Guys, this can. I keep moving it further away, and I keep hitting it. It's because people have found it as a useful resource. But again, he spent a lot of time talking about monetization in his hiatus article, and one of the things he noted is that last year was a break-even year, but he's been trying to monetize. And actually I don't communicate a lot with Jeff, but from time to time we have. And back in the day, he asked me some thoughts on certain monetization strategies and things that they were, considering. And none of that's relevant or particularly interesting for this discussion. The only thing is that I know that as he expresses in this article, he had expressed to me statements that made it clear he was really trying to figure out a way to get this so that it could actually generate income. And obviously it's been quite a struggle. I think having the hiatus, having the break, not having the stress of doing the work, not having the expense of doing the work, and he's going to be like, wow, it's going to be so much more enjoyable to be in this hobby and not do this.
Yeah.
And I think that will be the thing. Now, maybe he still does the Twippies, but that's a huge expense too. They're really, really popular and people are going to pressure him big time to do them. But so I could see maybe those still continuing. Though, honestly, I mean, if I were him, I'd drop all of it.
I'd would
drop
too.
all of it, and then see if you can enjoy the hobby without doing that stuff. And if so, and you're not bleeding money out on this passion project sort of thing. My advice would be drop TWIP and everything associated with it, and keep doing Silverball swag. I think the merch store that he and Will are doing, that can keep going. Probably without stress. Yeah. And I'm assuming that portion is one of the portions that generates income. So there's your in. You've used TWIP to help build up a lot of podcasts in Pinball use Silverball swag. So you've used this platform to help promote your shop. So now you don't need this to help promote it anymore, and it can kind of self-sustain.
Right.
That's my thought. That's my free advice would be, I would just get out of it.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think you're in the exact right place with it. I think that it'd probably be better overall.
Yeah, he mentioned at the start of his piece that they were getting ready to look at bringing in a marketing consultant to help with ideas. I think I find it's just easier not to have ideas and just not do it.
Yeah.
Just not do it. It's clearly been very difficult to monetize in the way that he was hoping. So I think at this point, you feel like it, and I don't know if he's like me, but for me, this reminds me of my old MMO days and when I was getting ready to leave Final Fantasy XI and when I was getting ready to leave WoW, and the big things in both of those instances, because I was doing so much for the in-game groups, was I felt like I was letting people down by stopping, but I felt so much better when I finally did. So
it's one of those things when the hobby becomes a job.
Yeah. So I'm like, and that's what I think will happen. I think right now he is planning to come back, but I think once he realizes that I think he's going to feel a lot better when he's not doing it. That's just my Pop 101 interpretation. But every person's different. So we will see, and I will wish him luck regardless. I always have very much appreciated what he's done. And, he really gave me a chance to put out a number of articles, and I appreciated that. It gave me a platform to engage this hobby in a way other than using the microphone, because as you know, recording podcasts is the absolute easiest way to create content in this hobby. But, anyway, that's not it for Pinball, Tony. I'm not done yet. We're only halfway through.
How are we there's so much Pinball?
We're actually a little over halfway through. I only got 2 more sections. All right. Topic number 4, Tony. A little more optimistic topic. Stern Pinball. They've launched Insider Connected platform.
Did they already have a platform? Did they already have a whole special program?
They have the Stern Insider program. This is different. This ties to it. This is Inside Connected. Fusion. I'm doing a hand thing.
So is it like a special Patreon for people who already pay for the Patreon?
Why does everything have to become Patreon? Why don't we have a Patreon? Do you think we'd get like millions of dollars?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I guess we could put together an OnlyFans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's right. You know, we're number one now.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. This is going off the rails. All right, I'm going to re-rail us. So, I do have a link in the show notes to the actual announcement that Stern has about this, so people can go and read up on it. But the way this works is, at least for the users, for the players, it's free registration. You will be able to go to up to a Stern pinball machine that is in this system, and you can scan it. You can scan the QR code off of the pinball machine, which will or go to the website to get signed up and registered. You, as a player, will get a QR code. And then what this will do is it will allow the pinball machine to scan you in when you're going to play a game.
So now pinball machines are going to have scanners?
Yes. So, what's
Because
happening?
the camera's watching us as we eat our pizza and then walk up to play a machine isn't creepy enough?
Correct. It's not. So, the way this is going to be is these cameras, these scan cameras, are going to be in a window on the apron. So they're not going to look out from the back box.
So they're going to look at my crotch.
How tall are you that you're going to set your junk on the apron of the pinball machine?
There's people in Stern just looking at everybody's junk.
Yeah. Okay. So an elephant's crotch, perhaps. I'm sorry. You ain't that tall. It's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem for you. I mean, it'll give you a new way to engage the action button. I agree. However,
let's be honest. You're right. As I heft my fat roll up on top of the apron for extra support and controlling machine shake, because I can give my belly the old jelly roll slap and get the right shake on the machine.
The camera, I think, will be a little bit further away from the lockdown bar. It's in a special window area. So, all right. So, I'll get back to that part in a moment. Just in terms of what the system will do, what it's going to mean for you as a player is it'll track your progress for you. There will be game-specific achievements that you'll be able to earn. Locations can set up promotions that are using the system. There can be challenge quests. This will be for all Spike 2 systems. Those are the LCD systems.
Okay.
Now, I think when this comes out this month, there's going to be something like, I don't remember how many, 6 to 8, I think, games. But they expect by the end of this year that all, I believe, 17 Spike 2 games, so going all the way back to Batman 66 and Aerosmith, will have this. We'll have their achievements and we'll have these capabilities enabled. So, from this point on, when Stern games leave the factory, those aprons are going to have the QR scanners in them by default. It's not an option. If you want to retrofit an existing game, because obviously Stern games were not like the Jersey Jacks. They don't have the cameras in them looking at you already. They are going to sell kits. The kit prices are not yet announced, at least that I've heard. For premium and LE games, I guess it's pretty straightforward because there's already like a window in the apron where the camera can go. On pros, it's a little trickier. They're having to sell like an arch. So you're going to basically get like a new apron. George Gomez has emphasized the plan that the retrofit kits are supposed to not be a big money-making idea for them. So the idea is it's supposed to be
Is this why the new machines are $1,000 more expensive?
My reports on that are most of that is driven by the cost of materials and shipping going up, and they're trying to keep their profit margin the same. So they're bumping those up. But obviously some portion of this increase is going to be this kit. The built-in cameras are going to be more than an apron that didn't do anything. I think we can all accept that logically makes sense. It's not yet clear to me if the operator features are going to have a cost associated with them or not. Because this has got things like being able to pull your audit reports, also do diagnostics report remotely, things of that nature. So there will be features like that. And then there will be other features rolling out as time goes by. I believe code updates through the base system are included already. But, the idea is they'll be able to build on this as it goes forward. An interesting thing that I think could be useful for location pinball is to get full experience for earning. When you get your achievements, I guess you're also earning experience points. Only verified ones will give you full experience. So the only way to full clear a Stern pinball machine is to play a verified pin, and those will be location pins, not homeowner pins. And so anyway,
you're gonna want to write this timestamp down. So why can't I just make it read the?
Oh my God. That is beeped, and it wasn't even profane. We just can't have it.
So I told you to write the timestamp down before I said it.
It was a good joke. We ain't keeping it in.
Oh, no. God, no. I know that. Okay.
Our only fan would suffer so badly. Our only fan would suffer. Do you have other thoughts? What do you think? Or do you want to earn achievements on your Stern pin?
I've never cared about that.
I used to try. I went for
no. You were like
video games.
Oh yeah,
I did. So I like this because I always have loved earning blukes.
You've always been a bluke guy, and I like blukes, but it's never been that whole all-encompassing search thing for me. It comes up to another one of those. Sometimes I just want to play pinball, and I don't want to have to walk up to the machine. Oh, it's my turn. Bleep myself in and play my game and all that.
Well, they say that you won't have to. You can still go and always play it the traditional way that you want.
Well, that's good. I think I can't really think of any huge negatives as long as it's not something that's required.
Yeah. The only negative overall, I think it's a positive. I'm glad they finally got I think online code updates and stuff have been
that's needed.
Woefully behind where we should be. I mean, technologically, it's quite frankly been embarrassing that it's taken this long.
Though I still think even those should probably be have to be manually initiated instead of just automatically initiating themselves.
Yeah, and maybe it's set to do it by default on startup of the game or something. But, it can take a while for an update. I mean, even with a USB, it can take a few minutes to install.
That's why I think it needs to be something where the operator has to key in and force it to happen. It'll do it all online, but it's not an automatic.
Maybe it'll give them a choice.
Yeah,
like you can choose. Do you want automatic or you want manual?
Yeah, as long as it's not a choice like my work Windows updates where it's like, here's the choice. You can update now or you can update in 4 hours in the middle of a meeting. Your choice. You have to do one or the other.
Yes. Well, those are only for the most vulnerable security updates, Tony. The most of the vulnerables. I mean, the only real negative I have with this, in my view, is the associated price increase that will inevitably have to be embedded with it. And it's just, pinball is getting really expensive. And I understand that you can get most, if not all, of your money back when you sell, but it's still requiring more and more of a cash commitment to get a new game.
Now, here's the important thing, and this is just like some of the conversation we had back during the joys of the pin bar talk.
Pin bar
are we going to have the good thing where you create your custom avatar and you'll earn XP and it unlocks special, like, could I put on the Black Knight's helmet on my avatar? We could call it, I don't know, a Sternatar. And we can, have it all, because that's the type of thing people like. They like to play Muku Muku dress up.
That's true. Lots of dress up. Okay, so our last pinball section topic is an email that kind of relates to the Stern Insider Connected. So I wanted to bring it up here, and it relates to video games. So I wanted to use it as a transitory topic to our next major section. So Chad H. wrote to us. I'm going to go ahead and read the email. Hey guys, greetings from Wichita. Oh, he's close.
Yay!
I feel like you two fellows will have the most insightful opinion about video game themes for pinball as it pertains to Stern's newest feature with internet connectivity. I wonder if now is the time for Stern to delve back into video game themes. It's not difficult to imagine a title that is extremely popular and recognizable to the general population. Fortnite, Overwatch, Call of Duty, or Halo come to mind. I think George Gomez understands how important trophies and achievements can be to gamers. He spent enough time on the video game side of things to get it. As the Stern connected platform grows, what if they do a video game themed pinball machine and figure out a way to tie the achievements together between the video game and the pinball machine? They could make certain achievements that can only be unlocked in the video game by playing and earning awards while playing the pinball machine. At that point, you're luring the gamers to the pinball and to locations to play the games, maybe even gaining new pinball fans along the way. The amount of attention that could be drawn to pinball by having some celebrity gamers playing a Stern video game themed pinball machine could be huge. There would certainly be technical and probably licensing hurdles to get to that point, but I see some opportunity for Stern to tap into a much larger audience. Video games have a much larger female demographic than pinball, and I'm sure Stern would be keen to gain access to that audience in particular. Stern must be looking to the future and wondering how to lure the younger generations to pinball. Maybe a platform that connects different types of games to each other is the way? Sometimes it is all it takes is one time in front of a pinball machine to get a person hooked. Cheers. Well, thank you, Chad, for the email. Tony. So, now, I tried to think of when was the last video game theme that Stern did, and I believe it was Roller Coaster Tycoon. In fact, that might be the only one they've done.
Yeah, it could be.
But saying that aside, you and I have, I think on multiple episodes at this point, discussed the idea and our perceived the viability of video game themes in pinball. I did note, not all that long ago, I did have a pinball manufacturer contact me wanting me to NDA to discuss video game themes, which I declined to do. But so definitely there are some in this space that are looking at it. I guess what I'm going to focus on first is the game / pinball tie-in, which is very clever, but could be very challenging. With the interconnectivity, there's probably a path. I don't know if achievements are that path. I don't know what the rules are, for example, with say Steam or PlayStation. Microsoft's Xbox, at least back in the day, had certain rules on achievements, like they had to be earnable in the game on that platform. I think there was one point where, there were certain things related even to the balance of multiplayer versus single player ones. They used to actually hard cap the amount of gamer score. That's probably still the case that you could get for a given thing. That's not as much of a big deal. However, what I'm kind of thinking of is sort of if not an achievement per se, you could do, we've seen a lot of this with like people watching Twitch streams. And drops are enabled for Overwatch, and you get outfits or sprays or stuff. I could definitely see with the internet connectivity, say if you were to go and play the Call of Duty Stern pinball machine, that gets you a new skin for a gun in Call of Duty, or unlocks an item or something, or a new outfit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The dress up, playing the dress up,
playing more of the dress up game.
So even if you couldn't necessarily be like. Because I don't think the gaming systems, at least the console systems, would be keen on saying, hey, you have to play this non-console product to full clear. Or that would create, the gamers would object. But if you wanted it to be an ability to earn usable consumables or certain special items, that's already really common to do outside of the games. So why not tie that to pinball? I could see that happening.
You could. I think that it would probably work pretty well if you had the right tie-ins, you got the right sponsorships and kind of celebrity people to help push it. I got to tell you, the first thing I thought of when we was talking about celebrity gamers playing a pinball machine, the first thing I thought of was as we've spoken about it in the past, an Overwatch-based pinball. I just would love to see the voice actors playing an Overwatch themed pinball game machine.
Yeah, it
would be so great.
It would be fun. And I mean, for example, I think fairly recently, just a few weeks ago, I think there was something that I saw. Jack Danger with Dead Flip announced that Shroud had done some pinball. Yeah, streamed some pinball and been talking to him. So the big streamers like that, you get a Tim the Tap Man to play a pinball machine. again, the closest that I could come up with, and obviously it's not the same as a live stream, but look at how popular the Slow-Mo Guys video on Willy Wonka was. I mean, it was huge because it's so neat to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not pinball people that were, making that have over 1 million views. That was because of Slow-Mo Guys. But, I think there's potential there. I like this idea. I actually don't think that there are a ton of licensing hurdles. I think video games are used to from Funko Pops to everything else. I think they might, if anything, actually get it a little more than Hollywood, which it seems like movies and TV, a lot of times when there are licensing struggles, you hear from when the pinball developers are talking about, the problem is the licensing group with the property doesn't understand pinball, and they get confused. Why are we asking for all these video assets, and why are we asking for voice rights? And they don't understand why we want people to say jackpot. And with video game people, some of that, they're gonna be like, we can give you clips from the game, and all that. I don't think that's. I think the reason why we don't see video game themes done from companies like Stern is in their mind, they don't associate that audience with having the money to buy pinball machines.
And I think that's what it is, because we're still sitting at the point where look at the nostalgia licensing and the dad rock, and that is the primary themes that we see rolling in pinball anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is going to eventually change.
I think I'm not going to say it has to, but logically it should. When you consider that people like us who are in our 40s, we grew up with Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega Genesis, NES. So at the very least, you'd think the dad rock philosophy would start to spill over into Mario, Zelda, Metroid. The thing is, these properties are still going today.
Right.
So it's not just relevant to old geezers like us. It's relevant to young people. I mean,
and something that I think there's a certain group that does not realize is just how much money certain segments of the younger generations have. Those people, I mean, look at the number of people that are on Twitch, that are on YouTube, that have managed to cut out their little niche and are making large money while being in their low 20s.
Yeah.
It is a group that exists, and it's a group that if you can get them to like what you're creating, are going to share it into their followers.
And another thing to remember for a lot of people is you don't need to find the people that are going to buy and fill a room full of pinball machines. There are plenty of people that would be willing to buy one.
Yes.
They'd spend the money one time.
Right. For the right theme.
And so, yes, I think that this is a logical path. I think that Chad's point about an integration is a really cool way. If for no other reason, that might not drive sales. It would definitely be interesting for location play, though. If they could go in and associate their Call of Duty profile. I mean, I remember I have a profile for DICE's Battlefield series, in their website for a sign-in where they track all the stats and stuff. You could integrate that through some API to whatever Stern's doing for their Battlefield game so that I can get a new RPG that says Stern on it when I shoot. Yeah, it shoots and explodes pinballs at people. Yeah, I don't know.
It should be just like when you link your Prime account to your Twitch account so that you can do your Prime logins and get your special Prime things.
Just do some links.
Yeah, or do link your Steam account to Discord so that whenever you're playing on Steam, it shows everybody shows everyone that you're playing Happy Fun Bags. I mean, it's one of the... those are things that happen.
Yes, that's the hit sequel to our favorite beanbag game. Yes, that one's staying in. I turned it into a chair. We're okay. It's okay. This is fine. I'm glad we're doing this. So yes, good point and good idea, Chad. I love it.
Also, just throw it. Just throwing it out there for the pinball people. If you could get Darren DePaul to voice your pinball machines, that'd be cool. Because he's awesome.
Why not just have me do it?
Well, they already did, I thought.
It was you.
And people had to shut it off.
Turn it off. I'm so
It's
sorry.
too annoying.
I'm sorry, Jerry. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Jackpot!
Jackpot. Come on, my 24 impression is pretty good.
Ooh, jackpot. Ooh, jackpot.
I started saying that at the 403 Club during the tournament yesterday. It's what I do to distract people so I can win.
Go for a tube shot.
Try a tube shot. I don't know why my Xenon voice is the same as my Chloe 24 voice. It's because I only have one voice. I'm not Mark Silk. I only got so much to work with here.
Oh, man.
So video games, Tony. I've given us the transition.
We are transitioning to video games.
So what do you got? You have a few things for us.
We have a couple things. I saw the pinball section. I narrowed video games down a little bit. We're going to start off with continuing sad Blizzard news because we're Blizzard people. I mean, we talk about Overwatch enough that and various things. The state of California has made an amendment to their accusation of Blizzard. Now they're saying that Blizzard is destroying documentation related to staff complaints.
That's not good.
And internal investigations.
Not good at all, Tony.
Blizzard has responded that they have complied with every proper request in support of its review, and they claim that they have not been shredding documents and that they have taken appropriate steps to preserve information relevant to the investigation. So basically, we're not shredding the stuff you want.
Oh,
it's other stuff we're shredding. It's cool.
Just the usual, the random shreds.
So we'll see how that continues to work out in this ever-growing saga. They have also announced that the next season of Overwatch League will start in April 22. And as I recall, we talked a little bit, I don't remember, was it on the episode or was it just us talking about when, and how the next season of Overwatch was going to happen?
I can't remember if it was on air or not, but
this is what happens when we talk for an hour and a half. Then we record an episode, and then we talk for another hour.
They don't want to hear all that.
No, they don't. Nobody wants to hear all of that. I'm just saying, but it gets to the point where it all kind of blends together.
It blends. We don't have the mental capability to sort all through this like we did when we were young.
Yeah.
So let's assume that we didn't mention it.
Okay. Well, yes. We weren't sure, but they've now announced for sure that the next season of Overwatch, which is season 5, as I recall.
I believe you're correct.
Yes. Will be starting in April of 22. And it has been reported from people at Blizzard that it will be playing an early build of Overwatch 2.
This is good. This is very
genius.
Smart. They need this.
They have to.
Yes. And starting in April, which is also good.
Yes. They've caused so much, there have been so many issues and so much pushback, and the whole status of Overwatch 2 has kind of just been in limbo for a while, that getting even an early build out there is vitally important.
Yes, I agree.
To me, it also means that more likely than not, that game will hit in 22.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good sign. And I mean, I've been hearing that development's going along fine, like it's going well. But yeah, the problem, I know we've talked about before, is the league, the buy-in, the amount of money people poured into the league was very significant. And the viewership numbers, now I read actually viewer counts are better this year than they were last year.
Which is good.
Probably partly driven by, drops and stuff, which were kind of a mess to hammer out last year because of the transition to YouTube from Twitch. Plus, the pandemic was just super disruptive to all the production, and everything's been a lot better this year.
Yeah,
the games have been better too, quite frankly. When I've actually been paying attention to them, I've been like, "Wow, Goats was so grueling."
It was,
and post Goats, it's like you're seeing different teams that are not running mirrors all the time. In fact, it's like an exception when it's a true mirror. But the problem is, of course, as we've noted, has been. This whole thing was designed to kind of be stadium style with people there, and going virtual has meant a lot of the revenue that the teams thought they would get were going to be from ticket sales. There ain't been no ticket sales,
right?
Other than a handful of tournaments in Asia, and not even that's gone now. So this getting the new game in will get eyeballs back and new people into it because. let's be frank. Overwatch never expected to still be playing Overwatch 1 in the league.
No.
It was not. They know this is not football. We expect new versions to come out on all of this stuff. It's the same thing with Evo. It's the same thing with watching Call of Duty tournaments. You expect new versions. That's how they keep it's not. And they could have gotten away with possibly maintaining better interest in Overwatch League had they still been actively putting out new stuff in the game. But there ain't new characters. There ain't any new competitive maps. It's all been deathmatch stuff, which is irrelevant to the league.
Yep.
So it's just like, I'm watching the same thing I watched 2 years ago.
And the thing is, when you're talking about the monetization, we're talking about monetization.
Well, it comes up. I mean, it's
we're talking about the monetization and the cost to the teams going to an early build of Overwatch 2 lets them cut a slot because the teams are down a person.
That's true, because it's going to be 5-person teams instead of 6.
Yeah. So that's going to be yet another amount of savings.
Yep, save them. I mean, it's a lot because every player gets at least $50,000.
Right. So, which is the reason why, with how things have gotten, so many of the big players and the teams, some of the teams that were the big teams, have cut and gone to like nobodies because they can pay them minimums instead of the money that the big names would demand.
NYXL went and pulled a whole bunch of people up from contenders.
Yeah,
it showed.
Yeah, I was going to say, how'd they do this year?
Well, they ain't in the finals.
I know. That's what my Spitfire did. They dumped everybody, and they've never been the same since.
In fact, some people are I think, being like, you know what? I think Shock made some moves, too, that have shown that they ain't nearly as good now.
Right.
Obviously, they aren't. They can't. They haven't won a single tournament, semi, whatever we call these, like Summer Showdown and stuff. I don't think they won any
but a
of
little
those.
Tournament, their monthly to-dos.
Yeah, in fact, they didn't even qualify for one of them. Which, I mean, I'm glad because I don't like that team, but.
Right, but I mean.
We all have to have our villains. Sorry, Super. Not so super now, are you?
So, no. Like you said, I think it's a good sign.
Yeah.
And finishing with another Blizzard good sign is they have confirmed that they're going to be renaming McCree, though they haven't said what they're going to rename him to. I like Shooty McShooty Face.
I don't think they're doing that. It's a little too Bodie McBoat Face.
Another recommendation I saw that I quite liked was generic cowboy character number 1. That way, if they have to, they can rename Ash generic female cowboy character number 1. And then if they bring in other cowboy characters, they just change the numbers. They're also going to be removing references in other games to former employees that have been brought up in these various allegations.
Yeah, no, that's smart. Not that I ever get asked this advice, but I share it from time to time anyway, is with governments, it's don't name roads and bridges after anyone who's still alive.
Yeah.
Because if they let you down, you end up having to do a rename. And we've seen it a lot. So
yeah.
I was like, just wait till they're dead at the very least. Then usually you figured out most of anything you're going to find out about them.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully you've got the most of it. You don't get burned with your John Wayne Gacy viaduct.
Yeah. Still remember once upon a time. This is total aside. I apologize, but the Kansas City Star area paper, regional newspaper, had a thing because the circus was coming to town, and they put the clowns are coming, and they put a Gacy clown photo as the picture, the generic picture of the clown.
Oh no!
Oh, it was like a full page thing, and it was just like, "Aw, he looks so happy."
You need to double check your stock photos.
So happy. Well, tying back to Overwatch, that happened during Mother's Day.
Yes, it did.
There was a couple that were serial killers, I believe, in Britain. Someone said, "Thanks for everything, Mom and Dad," and put their photo into the Twitter feed, and ended up constantly looping on Twitch with the Mother's Day celebrations. Oh, I admit I did laugh at that.
I did too.
Now I had to look that one up. I didn't know about that.
No, but from what I heard, people from Britain knew because it was a well known.
Yeah, we're not talking like the 1800s here.
Yeah, They also announced that they are no longer going to allow the naming of characters and places after employees.
Yeah, no, that's
just
good.
Yeah,
that's good business.
That's all. That's just you know what, they got burned. They learned they're going to find some other way to get burned, but it hopefully won't be the exact same way. We'll segue from that into Saints Row. I talked about Saints Row because I was a big fan.
That was on the air last year.
Yeah, because I was a big fan of Saints Row. The new game is like, I'm not surprised at all. It's a reboot because it was just too crazy. It had gotten too insane to really
someone
do
told me
anything
they'd
else
cracked
with.
the earth or destroyed it or something.
Oh yeah, no, they destroyed the earth, and one of the characters fought Satan and nailed his daughter, and there was all sorts of stuff going on.
Oh yeah, it's difficult to do Saints Row 5.
Yeah, so it is a reboot. They are going for something that is slightly more grounded than where it was, where your character was basically an evil superhero, or I guess that'd be a supervillain. But they're bringing it back to slightly more reality grounded, more contemporary and believable stuff. But it's still supposed to have the same kind of, your crew's taking over a city and you're building a criminal empire and there's other criminal factions that you're fighting for territory and all that from.
I wonder if they'll do it like Saints Row 2, which was the first I played. That one was where they decided to go ahead and go goofy instead of being like, the first Saints Row, which I did not play, my understanding is it was very much sort of like a GTA clone.
Yeah.
And so Saints Row 2 was goofy, but they weren't like weird superpower, like as a Saints Row 3, I think it was like within 3 missions, I had an attack helicopter.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
Okay.
And then in Saints Row 4, you literally got superpowers.
Okay. So I liked 2 a lot. It was fun.
Yeah. Because Saints Row 4 is the one where you hit the point where after 15 minutes of play, you didn't actually steal cars anymore because it was faster just to run than to drive a car.
Yeah.
So now there has been a lot of backlash.
Really?
There are a lot of people who are complaining that the game looks super generic and that it's just kind of a clone of all the other little games like that are out there, and that the name is being just tagged on it to give it something to stand out from what it would otherwise be.
So have they shown more than just like that trailer thing then?
Not really.
Because
you can't really tell anything from a trailer.
It was a car and they were driving in weird things and there were explosions. That's all. It wasn't any gameplay. So
right.
I find that claim presumptuous.
I agree. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just hate any change. It's like the new Advanced Wars that are coming out on Switch. They're remakes of the original Game Boy Advance Wars, but they changed the art. So there's people who are up in arms that it's the worst thing ever, that they took one of the greatest games ever and destroyed it because they changed the art style. And there's just people are going to complain. I mean, there's always going to be some people out there. We'll see how it turns out. I want it to keep some of the goofy.
Right. Yeah, I don't.
It doesn't have to.
You're going to run too much into the Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. You don't want to play in that sandbox.
Though, right, you don't want to play in that sandbox. Although I kind of wish Rockstar would maybe
make a new one,
make a new game.
Yeah.
But why should they?
I don't know.
Well, why should they? I mean, just why would they ever make a game? I mean,
I wonder if Rockstar will ever take a chance like they did with L.A. Noire again.
I doubt it.
It's too bad. I know that wasn't the greatest game, but it was a neat idea.
Yeah. No, I doubt they will. Whatever they come up with next will probably be just a new story and modernized stuff of a GTA 5. So it'll just be.
I honestly only expect that and Red Dead's out of them.
Yeah. Maybe someday Bethesda will put out something that's not just Skyrim on some other device. Maybe. Our last little bit here in the video game section is there's been some ongoing harassment and stuff in Twitch. It's Twitch, so that's not a deep surprise. But apparently some people have started using the Twitch client's raid feature. to organize and then raid people that they don't like and harass them.
Oh, yeah. Hate raids.
And so, yeah, there have been hate raids going on. And so a bunch of content creators went ahead and put together another blackout like they did last year. They did that Twitch blackout day. They did this one again. It was a 1-day thing. It was on the 1st, and there was some pretty good response.
It did better than this was. I believe everyone in the Pinball Network streamer group participated. The Fliptronic let everyone know about the blackout because I hadn't read about the blackout till after the fact. Other than that, and then I think they all either streamed on other platforms or didn't stream at all that day.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure. That cost Twitch 250 views.
Yeah, I know. With Pinball, it didn't mean much, but and at the time, I was a little. I'm often skeptical of I didn't know. Well, some of this, God, I don't want to go down a weird rabbit hole of have they been negotiating with Twitch? And normally protests are when you don't get what you want via other means. Right. And I'd heard major streamers weren't participating in this, so I was very skeptical that this was going to be very impactful. But it sounds like actually a lot of viewers didn't watch. So it actually had a lot bigger play than I had assumed it would.
Yeah. From third-party stat trackers, the viewership on that day was down about 1 million.
Mm-hmm. And we, in our EGP email, got an email from Twitch about what they're planning to do this after this happened.
Right.
So, FYI, it was just an update, so there wasn't anything for us to do. So, a lot of the tools aren't ready yet, and they don't want to say what the tools will do because they don't want people to start doing workarounds.
Right. And that was one of the things that had been going on leading into this when people were talking about the problem is that all they were getting from Twitch was, we're working on it.
I know, and that's super unsatisfying.
Right. And that's an ongoing problem Twitch has had in their communications with their creators, is that if there's a problem, people are, well, what are you doing about it? And they're like, we got some people looking at it.
Right.
It's like, well, what are you looking at? What are you doing? We've got top men working on it.
Right.
Men.
And it feels like, are they just giving you a line or is it real?
Right.
And where's the timeline? And professionally, I run into this a lot. I hear people say, we sent it to such and such, which is true. But then I never know if such and such is going to do anything with it. Mm-hmm. And there's things I've done professionally, which honestly should be able to be reviewed in 10 minutes. And I've waited weeks. Yeah. And it's this was a priority to my organization. It clearly isn't a priority to you. And sometimes it's too late after a period of time. I had a thing. I spent hours on it and I didn't send it out ultimately because it took so long for the state. I needed it before school opened. They didn't bother. I should have just bypassed them. Oh, well, lesson learned. I got their feedback, which I didn't really like. And then, they disagreed with some of the stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know why I let them review it. But by then it was so late. I was just like, whatever. Yeah. No one remembers anymore.
No one remembers. School started a month ago.
It's whatever. I waste my time on plenty of stuff, so that's okay. But
that's like
it's sort of if people were really counting on that, I was getting annoyed because I'm getting the same line of, we haven't heard. And I'm like, can you make them hear? Can you make them talk?
Have you asked? I know you haven't heard, but did you ask for an update?
This stuff happens. And this is with groups of people that talk to each other a lot. Mm-hmm. So when you're like this, where you're especially if you're a small streamer, you're sending it off to whoever at Twitch and they're just like, we're looking. Top men.
So.
But it's, anyway, they're being a little more public about it. I don't know ultimately what they're gonna do.
I don't know what you can really do about
making it harder for people to. It sounds like one of the big things is it's real easy to make multiple Twitch accounts with the same email. Mm-hmm. So going to more of a model where it's one account per email would slow it. Yeah, to some degree.
Maybe putting in. I've seen where some people. I read where some streamers have created panic buttons. Where if they're in the middle of streaming, they can hit a single button and it purges all of chat that happened prior to that button being hit, and it kicks them into what's subscriber only mode. Oh, and so it goes subscriber only mode, slow mode, purge all of chat, so all of the stuff that was there is gone. That they've already made that using stuff that's already available. So, but something more like that Twitch can build for itself internally. Or, I mean, I could even see them having a panic button that does something like that and just auto kicks the raiders. Because the raiders should be tagged or be able to be tagged that they came in as part of a raid.
Right.
So it should be if you can hit a panic button, they just kicks them. I don't know. Just throwing spitballing ideas. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. That's the thing with this whole streaming thing is it's so new. Even though it's been going on for years, but it's just constantly changing and everything. It's kind of interesting to see how it goes forward.
Yeah.
And eventually nobody will make any money from it.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, if you want to spitball some stuff to us, you can email us at eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com or contact us at facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast.
We're available on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we'll be back in a couple of weeks where, rumor has it, we will have a new Stern pinball machine to talk about.
Of course we will, because they'll announce it immediately after this episode comes out, because that's how our timing works.
Yep. But until then, I am Dennis.
I'm Tony.
Goodbye.
See ya.